Hi ma, good morning. Welcome back for today's session. Very sorry for the last video. Tried video by using earphones to reduce a little bit stress on my throat, but unfortunately it is not visible to you. Uh, but when I am listening in YouTube also it is good. Yeah, you can do. If you can try also. I uploaded the same video in the YouTube, but we are going to use the earphones. It is perfect. There is no problem at all. You can do that. After testing only, I uploaded in the YouTube. You can go the video one more time, and you can get you can clear the doubts if you have any. Okay. So in the last class we learned about NVIDIA Fermi GPU, that is graphical processing unit. Okay. So what is the main purpose of graphical processing unit? To perform large number of operations at a time. How you can do? By using multiprocessing. How can you do multiprocessing? By accommodating a number of processors or cores in one chip. Okay, so with this we got the NVIDIA Fermi first GPU came up with the 16 streaming processors. How many? 16 streaming multiprocessors. 16 streaming multiprocessors. Streaming means continuous, multiprocessor means more than one processor. Okay, so I have given this diagram in the last class. Hope you remember that. So this is called a streaming multiprocessor. It is architecture for only one streaming multiprocessor which contain 32 cores. Which contain 32 cores and which is a specialist in order to perform floating point operations mainly. Okay, here we gone through lot of parts in this. We gone through floating point unit, integer unit, dispatch unit. Here we go through wrap selector or wrap scheduler, which activates the threads in terms of cores, processors, instruction cache to store your instructions, register to store your instruction data, or I can say opcode or operand. Okay, dispatch unit, load, store, special functional unit. Okay, we have a latch local memory L1, we have a non-local memory L2. So we got lot of data here. Okay, a lot of devices also we have gone through. One by one we will study. So around 2010 there are 5 devices, especially supercomputers we can see. So out of those 5, 3 are very specialist. Okay, so one is a Tehla 1A, one is a Nebulae, one is a Tubami. Okay, Tehla 1A, Nebulae and Tubami. Nebula, I think you remember that. What is this? Telescope by which we can see the stars in the sky. Okay, even far stars also we can visible. They are visible with your telescope. So like that, which can be performed by using floating point operations, which are helpful to perform floating point operations. Okay, so like that, they are built with the streaming multiprocessor concept only. They are built with streaming multiprocessor concept only, means multiple processors in one GPU chip. So the Fermi chip, how many we got? 16 streaming multiprocessor. Each streaming multiprocessor, how many we got, ma? 32 cores each. How many? 32 cores each. Okay, so each core is called as a CUDA core. I explained in the last class. Each core is called as a CUDA cores. How many total cores we will get? The GPU comprises up to 512 streaming processor. Each core is called as a CUDA core. If it is so, we have 16 multiprocessors. Each 16 multiprocessor contain 32 cores. So 16 into 32, how many will get, ma? 512 cores, or we can say 512 CUDA cores, by which we can perform 512 operations at a time. Okay, right, next one. So the Tesla GPU used in the Tehnale 1A have similar architecture with 448 CUDA cores. So we have one more GPU at that time, the very famous GPU. It contains only 448 CUDA cores, but our NVIDIA Fermi GPU is more advanced than this, which contains around 512 CUDA cores. Okay, Now, the Fermi GPU is a newer generation of the GPU first appearing in 2010. Up to 2010, they are famous. After 2010, our Fermi GPU is a famous. That is 2011 year. Okay, next. So, what is a Tesla or Fermi GPU? Main theme to perform or improve. Accelerate means improve floating point calculations, along with building large scale data centers. If you are able to perform more operations, means you can do a large data center by which we can store more data, by which we can process more data. Okay, so data centers nothing but a collection of servers. What is a server, ma? A collection of multiple computers or a collection of multiple processors at one single computer. Both are same. That is up to you. How you want to make your server, as a single or multiple. But the capacity is going to be the same by using multi-cores or multi-processors in single computer. Okay, now, right, next one. So there are 32 CUDA cores per streaming processor. We learn about that. Each streaming processor contain how many cores? Sorry, each streaming multiprocessor, how many cores we got? 32 CUDA cores, also called as a streaming processor. What it is? Each CUDA core can be called as a streaming processor. Okay, next. So each CUDA core has a simple pipeline integer ALU and FPU. We gone through that. Arithmetic logic unit to perform integer operations and floating point unit to perform floating point operations. Both are separated but not included in one part. That is the speciality. Okay, right. By which we can do parallel job. Integer operations can perform aside and floating point operations can perform aside. Both are not same. Okay. Next. So each SM has 16 load store units. Means parallelly we can store 16 instructions at a time and we can upload 16 operations at a time, 16 instructions. It's very useful only, right? If you have only one load and store register, means we should be in a pipeline. We have to wait for the next instruction, even though we have 32 cores. Okay, so in order to balance this, each 2 cores are accommodated with one load store register. Okay, 2 cores are accommodated with the one load store register. Means we have 16 load store registers, but we have 32 cores. Okay, one is working means one is idle. That means if the both are competing at the same time, sometimes the efficiency is going to reduce. That is not at all a problem. But if 32 cores are waiting for the one load store, see, just imagine 1 is to 32. So by applying 16 load store registers, it is 1 is to 2 ratio we got. Okay, so that 16 threads per clock will work at a time. Okay, so there are 4 special functional units. We gone through this diagram. SFS. SFU means special functional units for executing transcendental instructions, means conversions from one form to another form to another. If you want to confirm some instructions from one to another data types, data values, then you can use these special functional units. Next. Okay, so all the CUDA cores in one streaming multiprocessor is going to communicate with some networks, right? They have their own memory L1 cache. The all one can be communicated with the dynamic RAM using the L2 cache. But how they are going to communicate with each other, one core to another? That is the main requirement for us. So for this, they are going to use NOC, network on chip. Network on chip to a large number of SRAM banks. Yes. So by using the NOC only, they used to communicate with each other along with the outside world. Okay, now whenever they came out of their chip, which are accommodated with the L1 cache, that is the local memory, now they are going to communicate with the L2 cache. Okay, now, right. So each SM has 64 KB L1 cache. I repeat, each streaming multiprocessor has its own L1 cache. There is no doubt. 768 KB unified L2 key is also there, which is going to shared by all cores. Each has only one. Each core has L1 cache, and all cores can share 768 KB L2 cache. Next, so memory controllers are used to connect to 6 GB off-chip dynamic RAMs. So dynamic RAMs are very important now, but they have some drawback also. Okay, static RAMs both have drawbacks, but compared to in efficiency, static RAMs are less efficient than dynamic RAMs. Okay, so refreshing rate if is very less, refreshing rate is very less, dynamic RAMs are going to become useless. Refreshing rate means it have to refresh its data. It's very, if it is going to be the same in very less time means automatically it have to clear and it have to upload. So time is going to take more. If your refreshing rate is more means gap is going to be more, automatically dynamic RAM is going to proving as a efficient one. Okay, so the SM schedules threads in groups of 32 parallel threads wraps. So in the last diagram we learned about the wrap. What is a wrap? Is selection of a threads to process by cores. Okay, so we have wraps 32 parallel means each core have its own wrap. We can perform 32 instructions at a time, there is no doubt. And we have a fused, multiply and add operations can be done in parallel to produce 32 or 64 floating point results. As we have FMA, fused and multiply add operation, that is floating point and integer values. Okay, so we have some challenges, no need to yeah. So those challenges we have, for example, if your house is a very big house, your home is the biggest one, what are the challenges? To maintenance, the maintenance will cost more to you because of power supply, cleaning section, the stationery or furniture we want in every room to accommodate. Okay, if the people are more, automatical expense is also very more. Okay, so in our Fermi, that is NVIDIA Fermi GPU CUDA core GPU system which contains around 16 multiprocessors. Okay, each containing 32 CUDA cores means 512 processors at a time means. Can you estimate the other requirements along with the processing capability? Okay, the other one to convey the requirements. So one is the energy and the power. The power supply requirement is more and more, right? Next, for example, I am making a video for you. If my power supply is not good in the house, how can I do? The laptop may not able to charge. I can't convey the same to you, right? Okay. Memory and the storage, how much memory to process, to load, store. Concurrency and locality, of course. Sometimes we used to locate your data from secondary devices. Okay, if it is far enough, from our device, that is okay, it can get the data. But more data is available in the secondary data means we have to trace our requirement, where the data is going to be, where is the location of the data, we have to trace that. In order to reduce that, the processor type of data devices only we have to accommodate with the as a secondary device. Okay, as a secondary device. For example, memories, our RAM or semiconductor devices. If hard disk also semiconductor devices, that is good enough. But semiconductor devices are very costly. So in order to overcome from that cost, we used to maintain the magnetic devices, that is hard disk. Okay, so we have to take care of that balancing issue also. Finally, the system resiliency, maintenance. Okay, how much time you require to maintain perfectly? What is the refreshing rate? Either in one day or couple of days, week or fortnight or month. Okay, so this is the issues we have to consider when I'm going to use the biggest GPUs, I can say. What are those? Energy and the power supply, memory and the storage, concurrency and locality, and finally system resiliency. Okay, ma'am. Now, if we came to the, we will see one by one factor, the power efficiency of the GPU. How much it requires to perform its large number of instructions is a big issue. Okay, we will consider this. We will see this. See, power and massive parallelism are the major benefits of GPU or CPU for the future. How? Because the GPU, by consuming more power, it can perform more parallelism. So automatically it is a benefit, proving as a benefit over to CPU only. Right now? Next. See, as per the previous analysis or analytical data, what they want to convey is in order to perform these GPU operations, in order to maintain one graphics processing unit as a computer for you, okay, it need 60 gigaflops per watt per core, okay, to run an exaflops 1000 or floating point operations. How much power we need? 60 gigaflops per watt we require to perform 10 to the power of 18 floating point operations per second. Oh my god, just at present we are using only 2 gigahertz, at least 1.33 gigahertz per second we are using for our computers. Just estimate the requirement to perform the GPU operations. 60 gigaflops per watt. Oh my god. Okay, that is the requirement. Okay, so the author given some comparative figure in terms of the efficiency of the power or in terms of requirement for both the GPU and the CPU, graphics processing unit and central processing unit. Okay, we will see about this, right? Yeah. Yes, it is around 2010 to 2016 graphical notation. If you observe here, in 2010 the GPU has consumed, it is 10 now, but 10 means more than 10 gigaflops per watt. So the unit is here gigaflops per watt per core. It is not a total cores, only one single core. So it have taken around how many at the initially 1, 2, 3, maybe 7 or 8 near 2010. Around 2013 it reached to 10 gigaflops per watt requirement. But in 2016 the GPU reached the requirement for around 13 gigaflops per watts. See, it's not a small requirement here. Okay, how much power generation it requires? What are the devices we have to use to maintain this much power to collect also? But if you came to CPU, our CPU, that is a central processing unit, that is blue line. Green line is for GPU. Next, blue line is for CPU. Around 2010, it is very near to 1 only, not more than 1 gigaflops per watt requirement. But if you move into 2016, it is just needed 3 gigaflops per watt. See how compared can be. As more cores are available, more processing is needed, more processing is going on, automatically more power is needed. So both are same, right? Okay. So, and memory, storage and wide area networks. See, if a power requirement is going to be increased, automatically memory requirement is also increment position only, but not decrement. Okay, if you observe, whenever the dynamic RAM, it's a very efficient memory at that time. Okay, using 16 KB in 1976. I too didn't born at that time, but at 2011 64 GB is supporting for dynamic RAM. Okay, that is a improvement in our technology. See, if you see this, so I want to show one pictorial representation of this improvement in terms of memory. So memory, we have two categories, primary memory, secondary memory. Primary memory is located inside the computer, which can able to store OS. Next, secondary memory is able to out in the computer only, the CPU only, but not as a part of a RAM, which is not near to processor. It is somewhat little bit far from the CPU. Okay, so it have more enough capacity to store large amount of data, as it is not very near to the CPU and it is not a type of I can say they are semiconductor devices, but these are magnetic devices. Okay, so speed is going to be somewhat not compensate between the primary memory and the secondary memory. Okay, in order to avoid this speed mismatch, we are going to use cache. Okay, right, we will. So this diagram will give the evolution of this memory and the disk technologies. See, from 1978 to 2011, so it is nothing but the memory evolution. So at the 1978 they used around 1980 maybe or 1979. They use 64 KB of data to process. But after 256 KB, 1 MB, 16 MB, 16, what is this? 16 MB only. 64 MB, 256 MB, 1 GB, sorry, it is 1 GR, 1 G. 1 GB, 16 GB, 64 GB. So 2011 64 GB. Okay, but now minimum hard disk configuration requirement is 160 GB. Right? Okay, hard disk I am saying, but it is about the memory. 64 GB RAM. Oh my, it will run like a horse, more than horse or jet train. Okay, that much speed we can expect from this. Okay, the internal storage memory requirement. Okay, 64 GB 2011, but we are in 2020. And coming to the disk storage, secondary storage, Seagate. Yes, they are going to use Lomega, Seagate, Diamond Max, Max Star. Some evolution came. Okay, whenever the Seagate has been reached to, what is this? 10,000. It is around 5,000 GB. 5,000 GB. Oh my God! Now we can say more than that. For one GPU, that is a graphics processing unit, we need this much evolution. Okay. So HDD capacity, that is hard disk drive capacity, started with 1956 3.78 megabytes, developed in 2017 14 terabytes. Improvement is 3.73 million to 1. Oh my God, that much improvement is happening HDD also. Okay, so disk and storage technologies. In the figure we gone through that evolution about the primary memory and secondary memory. Okay, so what they want to convey is they increase in 7 orders of magnitude, 700 times, or we can say 7 times are improved. Okay, so they also use solid state drives, secondary storage drives, which can store large amount of data in terms of flash memory, which are using in HTC and HP systems also. Okay, so a solid state drives can able to handle 3 lakhs to 1 million write cycles per second. Means we can access our data very fastly. If time is reducing, to seek means to find out your location in the memory, automatically transfer time will reduce. Seek time is reduced, transfer time is reduced, automatically turn around time is reduced. Turn around time means submitting a request, getting the reply is the turnaround time. Turnaround time is reduced, execution is going to become fast, efficiency will be more, performance also more. Sorry, okay na? Right. So this is the diagram I shown to you, the same diagram. System area networks. So we learn about the energy, we learn about the means power. Next is the memory. Next is the interconnectivity of the systems. If the network connectivity is not good, how can one system is able to store with any other? That's a big issue, right? So for this, actually how the systems are connecting are going to use the same. For example, we have a topologies, bus topology, ring topology, star topology, mesh topology. We used to say from the beginning of the BTech, right? So these topologies are using same for all the devices, for all the procedures? No, they are not. The deviating depends upon our requirement. Okay, so there is a client server communication, there is a system to system communication. So same type of network is not going to use. Some different networks are going to use. See this. See, here we have 3 types of networks, ma. Okay, one is we know about these local area networks, storage area networks, network area network storage disk arrays. This one. Okay, so how they are connecting, we can see this. The LAN, local area networks, are useful to connect clients and servers. The storage area networks are using to connect network storages and servers. The NAS, the network area storage, is going to helping to network available data to clients. Network available data to clients. So they are connecting different type of networks. Technologies are required to connect different types of systems. Okay, see this. LAN connects client, host and servers. SAN connects servers with the disk arrays, and NAS connects the clients with large storage systems in the network environment. I've given this here, it's the same. Storage array networks connect servers to network storage. Network attached storage connects client host directly to the disk arrays. Finally, LAN will connect client host to big servers. Okay. Next, virtual machine. Okay, virtual machine. It's a I can say it's a miracle. Total gradient cloud computing is 100% if you consider. I give 50% of the effort for virtualization only. See, we have a lot of devices in the house. Lot of devices we have. But the one who will control, who will manage these devices is the super. Okay. Else the total devices usage will become waste. Right, ma? Okay. So that is important. Management and resources availability maintenance are important. We should get the resources all the time, round the clock. There should not be any intermittent in the service of the resources. If you are not able to get the memory to store your data, if there is no processor to execute your instruction, if there is no network connectivity to transfer your data or to communicate with any other, what is the use of the resources? It's a big question, right? So in order to solve this, we are going to use a virtualization concept by which we can, with the limited resources, we can explore the most amount of data. How it is going to do? See, we have 4 students. For example, 4 students I have A, B, C, D. Okay, A, B, C, D. So A have around 64 GB of data, B also 64 GB of data. Same with the C and D. Okay, so every time 4 persons are not busy, they may be idle sometime. That is availability of the storage. See, one is busy with some processing. I can avail the other also. I can avail other people. Why should I leave them idle? Right. So that is a management. That is a management. This maintenance and the management can be useful in terms of virtual machines and virtualization middleware. Hope you remember the virtualization concept. Okay. So a conventional computer has a single OS image. But for example, we have a only single computer, single OS. Is it runs good? Of course, no doubt at all. It runs good. But you have one more OS also in your system. What about this advantage? So some applications may run in one type of OS. Some applications may run in another type of OS. It depends. It depends. If you have both types of OS in your computer as a single part, that is advantage to you or not? Yes, more advantages. Any type of application I can run in both machines, in both OSs. Okay. Now it is a question whether my OS should be host or guest. Host is my own OS, guest is some other OS. For example, Windows is my own OS I am running because to load my operating system. On that window, if I installed Linux, then it is a host OS. Okay. So, which one I have to give privilege? To host OS or guest OS is a big question. If I give privilege my own OS, yes, my OS have command to operate on my hard disk. Because my hard disk parts are compensated with my own OS only, host OS only. They have compatibility. Okay, but if Linux is coming, it is not compatible with my hard disk. Then what happen? We should need of conversion from one form to another. Who will convert this? My host OS. Okay. See, we have a 2 persons. Who is that? One is an English fellow, one is a Chinese fellow. Okay, both want to communicate, but both don't have the same language. Both are different. No one can able to understand the other language. What happens? We need translator between. One-to-one conversion is needed. So like this, the virtual machine is the one which take care of both OSs. Host OS along with the guest OS. There is no doubt. It will convert both. Okay, so that is the theme of this virtualization. Hope you got this point. Okay, with this we can move some points. Yeah, it is an important point here. Virtual machines offer novel solutions to underutilized resources. It will give the new solutions to underutilized resources, means which can application inflexibility, software manageability, securities. For all these questions we are going to deal virtual machines. Okay, so where we can use these virtual machines are for grids, cluster, cloud, storage, networking, everything we can use now. There is no doubt. Okay. See, we have 4 types of architecture as a virtual machine. See, this is a diagram. See, I will give you small information about this diagram. Tomorrow we will explain clearly. Okay. See, if you observe this, I have 4 types of virtual machines. I repeat, my own OS is my host OS, other OS is my guest OS. To whom you want to give privilege? To my host OS or guest OS? It is up to you, depends upon your requirement. So with this, here we have a hardware, our computer hardware, our own OS, on what application is going to run. That is one type of architecture. If you come to second one, our hardware, on that we are going to use virtual machine. Virtual machine means, where is the virtual machine? In our OS. In my OS, it is my OS part, OS place. In my OS, I have used virtual machines, hypervisor. On that means it is the one to which we are giving privilege. My OS will control the other system, even the other OS also. Now my OS will control, have command on guest OS. This second type of architecture. And guest OS applications. Okay, these applications are running based upon instructions of the guest OS. Third architecture, if you see, I have my own hardware, I have my own host OS only. No virtual machine I have run on this. But whenever there is a guest OS, the guest OS is going to verified by the virtual machine. That virtual machine is going to run in the guest OS. Okay, it has power to control the guest OS, but not my host OS. Okay, the applications are under control of guest OS. That is third architecture. Okay, so now my privilege is going to host OS only. Finally, I want to run 2 VMs. Virtual machine monitor at the non-privileged mode with the help of guest OS, virtual machine with the help of my host OS. It is not taking command and total OS, but it is trying to give as a helping hand, to prove as a helping hand to my host OS. Okay, now, so hope you remember this. In the next class, we will learn in detail what are those. Okay, so for today, have a nice day. Bye.